Hi students, it's Professor Bell, and we're going to be looking at Chapter 1 today in these next series of lectures. So make sure you go ahead and have your textbook out and ready, you know, pencils, paper, things of that nature, so you can get some notes taken, and so that you feel confident about what you're getting ready for your first exam. So at the beginning of the chapter, they ask you, why is this difficult to see as a map? And it really has to do with the culture that you were raised in, to be able to view and understand, to read the landscape and to understand it with sticks, shells, and the like. Now, you can turn to the end of that chapter and read more about it. But I did want to show you here too that there's a short but very effective video right here that if it's on the Khan Academy website. It's only about 6 minutes long, but it's really very cool, and it shows you how it's an interview with someone at a museum. But you can learn more about what it is. But the whole point is that this really works well for these individuals and what they've gotten used to. So it's currents and wind. They even use stars, to navigate by as well. So here are the Marshall Islands right here. But why I'm showing you this map is so that you know that all of these tiny, tiny little, look at Micronesia, small islands, Hawaiian Islands, part of Polynesia, many islands. These were all discovered, and if possible, people were living on them, even way out here, even off this map. Easter Island, when you know those big heads, those heads from whatnot at the museum, the one who wants his gum. But this is people understanding their geography and being able to move and operate in that geography and colonize these places. So even though you may not see that as a map, that's exactly what it is. Now let's look at a couple of others here too. Oh, well, I was going to tell you this. They were able to colonize these places because they just didn't sail off into oblivion, and never come back. They understood how to get from point A to point B, and they used these outrigger canoes, and they got much more elaborate. These are from the Maori, who were in New Zealand, and before the British showed up. But they colonized a lot of islands and conquered a lot of islands. These were very warlike people. But what I wanted to impress upon you again is the navigational skills these people had, and again, understanding where they lived. So you probably don't know what this is until you look past all of it. And if you see underneath here, this is the boot of Italy, Sicily, Sardinia. Here is the Greek archipelago. And this is a Portolano. This is a chart used by sailors, and so it's called rum lines. And this was used from point to point, and this was a very common way of understanding one's geography. Again, you may not know how to use it. I don't. But if I understood the language in which it was written and what it intended, then it would be perfectly fine for me. Okay, so let's look at one that I am very familiar with here, these 7.5-minute maps from the United States Geological Survey. These are topo maps, and so certainly you can see the lake here, but do you know that this is a benchmark to tell you exactly what the elevation is above mean sea level, and that all these lines that you have here, they're numbered, and that they give you a certain elevation, so that this is the low spot here as we're going up in elevation, and to this particular spot showing you the high point on Flat Top Mountain. So this is the top of the thing with ascending up the sides of it. But if you're not used to looking at it again, it may be foreign to you, or Greek, or however they say. Okay, so you're probably used to this, Google Maps, and I put Volunteer State here in the middle. And if you've ever been on this campus or around in this area, you know that McDonald's is over here so you can get something to eat. The Publix is here. Go to the movie theater over here. You might work at Gap. I don't know. But this is quite common in this area. And I think you probably could read this very well. And in fact, I brought it up over here. So let me see if I can show it to you real quick. How very quickly you can zoom in and then see more and more about a campus our campus or whatever that place is. It starts giving you more and more detail. So where I am right now, I'm sitting in an office that's right here, and I'm recording this, and I'm outside the baseball field is over here, and you would be able to use this map to navigate campus when you're on it, to go to the library or wherever it happens to be. Okay, so this is quite normal for you to use, and it makes sense to you. Okay, so let's see here. All right, so let's move on to another topic. Let's go ahead and look at culture and architecture. And as we look in here, we'll see that how people build places largely is determined based on their environment and how their culture has evolved to that environment. Now, with this one real quick, you might note that this is a Catholic church. Obviously, Catholicism would be coming from Europe, but you would see a lot of churches like this in the Western Hemisphere when the Spanish and the Portuguese came to settle in this area. And churches like this were found, oh gosh, all over the Southwest, all over Mesoamerica, all over Latin America. So notice your crosses. You have the symmetry of the church too, the bells in here, the iconography, maybe saints and different things. And that all would go together. You'd know it better if you were Catholic, but if you're not, you still probably get what I'm saying. I'm going to show you another Catholic church in just a second. But if you look in, say, Thailand and look at Buddhism, and their building is quite different. Now, there's still symmetry involved with it, but I don't know enough about Buddhism to tell you why they constructed it in the way they constructed it, but it wasn't happenstance, and it wasn't, by guesswork. If this is a holy place for you, then your decisions were made based on how you understood God, religion, whatever that thing is. And so this process does evolve as well. Okay, so it can change over time. If you've been inside any of these churches here, the Catholic Church, very ornate, very, very powerful icons that are all the way through there, Christ and the Madonna and Calvary and the cross. Okay, now, so let me show you this for a second. Now, this is me, in 2014, so I'm 6 years older with a lot less hair and a lot more weight on me now. But we're overlooking Cusco, Peru. So let me show you real quick. It's called the Zocalo, or the plaza is right here. So this is Plaza de Armas. This is one Catholic church, and there's a bigger one actually right here. So two different Catholic churches right around this plaza. Now, why do we have Catholic churches here? Well, this was the navel of the world, not for Catholicism, but for the Inca and the empire that they had here. And this is a very powerful city. So the tour leaders showed us every place around this city. They'd point it out. Do you see that? That's a church. That's a church. That's a church. And they point these things out to us. And they say they were put here because of cultural imperialism. Okay? They wanted to put the Catholic faith over this belief system, to quash it, to kill it off, and then convert everybody to Catholicism. And a lot of that did happen, but there's still plenty of people all over the Andean region of South America that are either not practicing Catholicism at all, or are practicing Catholicism blended with their local beliefs. But this is just to point it out, and I got one more thing to show you, which is actually the direction my face, this picture is looking at, but I'll show it to you in a second. But I wanted to show you another one here. This is from the Oracle in Delphi. So this is in Greece. So it said that Zeus put some eagles on either end of the known world, had them fly. They took off at the same time. They flew at the same place, and where they crossed paths was significant, and that became the navel of the world. So the Oracle of Delphi. And this is giving symbolism and value to a particular place. This is a very spiritual place, both for Catholics now, but certainly for the Inca and other peoples who lived in the Sacred Valley. That's what this is part of. Okay, so if you look in the direction I'm looking in the picture, this is what you're going to get at. And this is Sacsayhuaman, and it means the royal eagle. And if you ever get a chance to tour this, you'll be blown away. Notice that there's no symmetry in these rocks at all. All of them are different. They're huge stones. And when you walk up to them, and you can see that you couldn't slip a piece of paper in between these rocks. And this is one of the most impressive things you'll ever see in your life. And it's because this area had that power, spiritual, with another world. It meant something to you in this life, in this place. So they gave that power over to this place. So understand how place is a very important thing. Now let's move it to a different concept here of growing major grain crops. So there's 3 or 4 major grain crops. There's wheat, certainly wheat, rice, and corn that stand out. And depending on maybe where you live, if you're in the Andes, for instance, you might be, oh gosh, I just went blank on it. What's the grain? Oh, quinoa. And there's other, peasant grains there like quinoa and quichua. That grow in the Andes. But this is just about a map of wheat. So the question is, well, why does it grow where it grows? Well, it was domesticated in this region right here, okay? So wheat was domesticated right here, basically in Iraq. And so this was a Mediterranean climate, and this is where it did really well. So one of the things you need to see is that by latitude, wheat can grow well at certain latitudes. And you'd say, wait a minute, some of this, see these dotted lines here and here, some of this means it grows well in the tropics. Well, that's true too, but notice how big this swath is right here. This is running right up next to the Andes Mountains. So you generally have to have a certain amount of rainfall and a certain amount of growing season, and there's actually different kinds of wheat. So you can have winter wheat and spring wheat. So this would be a spring wheat belt here in the north. You got to plant in the spring is all that means. But this is the old, the bread basket of the United States and Canada. This was the breadbasket of the old Soviet Union right here that ran through Ukraine, southern Russia, and into Kazakhstan. A lot of people think, Chinese, they all eat, rice until you think, wait a minute, no, they eat a lot of noodles. And so they make certainly rice noodles, but these are wheat noodles. And they've got lots of wheat growing out here. And now notice, not too much in the tropics, but go south of this is the Tropic of Cancer, this is Capricorn. So go south of that and you get right back into the same climatic zones. And so that's what's really driving this. Some of it, like this river right here, is the Nile. It'll grow well there also. Okay, so place matters with regard to climate and crops. Okay, so let's take a look at one other thing here too in your textbook, trying to show you how places evolve in their shape. So this one is in your text, and it's a Latin American city model. So think about how U.S. cities look. And so the Central Business District, this CBD, we had all of these. And then what ends up happening is through time and transportation networks, we actually have people with a lot of money move out very quickly into these areas around the outside. We call it the suburbs, okay, and the regional mall. So our cities form much differently than did the Latin cities. So they had obviously this elite sector, a spine around the business and industry that you got here. But then look at this Parifico, the squatter settlements, okay? So what's happening here is farmers that can't make it on their land move into this area and try to come into this area where the money is, and they get jobs, okay? So when you look at favelas and barrios, that's what these things look like. So people move into this area. They build on marginal land, usually very hilly, not a lot of electricity, if any, sewage, not much, water. Look at all the blue, tubs they've got on top. They're catching water. They're using this for cleaning and other purposes in the house. But this is something that they themselves built, not that was built for them to move into. So these favelas, which are squatter settlements, are quite ubiquitous around those Brazilian cities, but it's true for the Spanish-speaking ones as well. They just call them barrios, okay? And so this is the last thing I'll show you. This Pueblo Jovines, this is my picture again, and this is in Lima, Peru. And right in this area is a really nice mall, really nice. But I think a lot of these people probably come in here and do work because tourists like myself and locals with money come to this area. So they come in here and they work the jobs and clean and things of that nature. Okay, but this is what it really looks like up on that hillside. All right, I'm going to call it quits for now and come back with another topic so that we can move forward through this chapter. Okay, see you in a minute. Bye.